October 15th, 1943. Schweinfurt, Germany. The first thing anyone noticed about the P-38 Lightning was that it looked wrong. Two engines, two tails, a cockpit suspended between them like a glass bubble, fragile and exposed. It didn't resemble the sleek, single-engine fighters of Europe. It didn't look elegant or fast. To German pilots seeing it for the first time, it looked like a mistake that somehow made it off the drawing board. They laughed. Some called it der Gabelschwanzteufel, the fork-tailed devil, usually after it stopped being funny. Major Thomas Maguire watched the German fighters assembling ahead of him at 25,000 feet, sunlight flashing off gray aluminum wings. Messerschmitts, Focke-Wulfs, too many to count at a glance. He didn't smile, didn't tense, didn't say a word over the radio. He just checked his airspeed, nudged the throttles forward, and waited. His Lightning was trimmed perfectly. The guns in its nose, 4 .50 caliber machine guns and a single 20mm cannon, were harmonized to a single point in space, 300 yards straight ahead. Not a cone of fire, not a hopeful spread. One tight, murderous stream. At that distance, mathematics took over. The mission had begun before dawn in England. 200 17 flying fortresses clawing into the dark, heavy with bombs, bound for the ball-bearing factories at Schweinfurt, the industrial heart that kept German tanks rolling and aircraft flying. Every man on the briefing room floor knew the numbers. The factories would be rebuilt. The losses would not. Each bomber carried 13 guns. It still wasn't enough. German fighters had learned how to exploit blind angles, how to slice in and out of formation where only 1 or 2 guns could answer back. That was why the Lightnings were there. 48 P-38s with drop tanks hanging under their wings, enough fuel to take them deep into Germany, and, if luck held, back out again. Maguire had been flying fighters for 3 years. He'd learned early that fear wasted time. He trusted the machine. At altitude, where other fighters struggled for breath, the Lightning's turbocharged engines pulled clean and strong. The counter-rotating propellers canceled torque, letting the aircraft fly straight as a bullet. And the nose-mounted guns meant no convergence guessing games. You pointed. You fired. The target disappeared. German voices crackled over the radio, sharp and confident. Maguire didn't understand the words, but he recognized the tone. Amusement. Expectation. They thought this would be easy. The first Messerschmitt dove from above, a textbook attack. The German pilot expected Maguire to break left or right, to scatter, to defend. Instead, Maguire pulled straight up. The Lightning surged skyward at an angle that would have stalled most fighters. The German pilot committed to his dive, flashed underneath, suddenly out of position. Maguire rolled inverted and dropped his nose, gravity doing the work now. 350 yards. 325. 300. He squeezed the trigger. The Lightning shuddered as all 5 guns spoke at once. The fire looked unreal, like a bright steel rope connecting the 2 aircraft. The Messerschmitt came apart in stages, tail first, then wings folding backward, then the engine detonating in a flash of flame and smoke. 2 seconds, maybe less. The German pilot never moved. Cordite filled Maguire's cockpit despite the oxygen mask. His hands stayed steady on the controls, though his heart hammered hard enough to hurt. 1 down, and at least 30 more closing in. Sweat soaked his flight suit despite the 40 below air. He remembered watching barnstormers as a boy in Nebraska, standing in open fields while airplanes danced overhead. His father, a railroad mechanic, had saved for years to pay for flying lessons. Maguire had dreamed of freedom, of sky and speed. Now he used that dream to kill men he would never know. A Lightning slid into formation beside him. Lieutenant Jim Morrison, Texas drawl, former crop duster. Morrison flashed a hand signal. 2 Focke-Wulfs climbing from low 9 o'clock. The FW-190 was Germany's best fighter below 20,000 feet, fast and heavily armed. But up here, the Lightning owned the sky. They rolled into a diving turn, speed building fast. 400 miles an hour. 450. The airframe groaned. Controls went heavy as compressibility whispered its warning. Maguire eased back, careful, precise. The Germans split, 1 left, 1 right. Morrison took the left. Maguire stayed right. The German pilot fought well, rolling and skidding, bleeding energy with every move. Maguire didn't rush. He kept his speed, waited for gravity and physics to settle the argument. 400 yards. 350. The German rolled inverted and dove. McGuire followed, altimeter spinning backward. 20,000 feet. 15. 10. The FW-190 tried to pull out. McGuire stayed with him, vision tunneling as G-force crushed him into the seat. Gray fog crept at the edges of his sight. 300 yards. A short burst. The cannon shells walked down the fuselage. White coolant sprayed like blood. The German aircraft rolled slowly, almost gently. The canopy blew free. The pilot tumbled out, parachute blossoming far below, a tiny white flower against green earth. Morrison's voice came over the radio, excited, then strained. He'd killed his target, but taken damage. Hydraulic fluid streaming. Landing gear questionable. If they made it home. The bomber stream pressed on. Below them, a B-17 took a rocket and vanished in a single violent flash. Men fell burning through the sky. Another fortress staggered on, one engine aflame, its gunners still firing at shadows. McGuire felt something inside him harden. This wasn't heroism. This was arithmetic. Speed. Angle. Distance. 300 yards. And the war was just getting started. The ammunition counters told him the truth before his instincts did. Less than 20 seconds of fire remained. McGuire climbed above the fight, 30,000 feet, where the sky darkened and the air thinned. He turned west, toward England, toward water and hope in the narrow strip of concrete that counted as home. Below him, the air battle churned like a storm, fighters spiraling, bombers breaking formation, flak bursting in black, oily flowers that tore aluminum apart without mercy. The lightning hummed steadily, twin Allisons still pulling strong, but McGuire knew how fragile that sound was. One lucky round in the wrong place, one cracked oil line or severed cable, and the machine would become a coffin. Escaping a P-38 wasn't easy. The twin booms framed the cockpit like a trap. Many pilots never cleared them. A flash below caught his eye. A lone Messerschmitt 109 stalked a wounded B-17 that had slipped behind the formation. The bomber's tail guns were silent, either empty or manned by someone already dead. The German pilot was patient, cruelly so, sitting in the blind spot and pouring cannon shells into engines that were already failing. McGuire didn't hesitate. He rolled inverted and pulled through, the lightning dropping like a stone. Speed built instantly, 300 miles an hour, 400, 450. The German never looked up. He was focused on the kill ahead of him. 300 yards. McGuire pressed the trigger and held it. The last of his ammunition poured out in one long, unforgiving burst. The Messerschmitt didn't explode so much as unravel. Engine tearing free, wings folding inward, tail snapping clean off. The pilot was thrown clear as the cockpit vanished around him. The parachute opened. It didn't matter. Flames climbed the German's flight suit, fed by fuel and airspeed. His scream cut through the radio for a second. Raw, animal, unforgettable. Then the chute burned through and collapsed. The man fell the remaining 5,000 feet like a stone. The B-17 waggled its wings in thanks and limped back toward the formation. McGuire pulled up hard, heart pounding, throat dry. He checked his fuel again. Enough, maybe, if he was careful. He throttled back and began a long, shallow descent to a more efficient altitude. Only then did he notice the damage. Holes stitched across the left boom. Oil mist streaking the right engine cowling. Pressure fluctuating, needle twitching like a nervous finger. He hadn't felt the hits. Adrenaline hid pain until it decided not to. The coast of Holland slid beneath him, flat and gray. Then the North Sea, cold, endless, unforgiving. He'd seen too many men go down there. 10 minutes, maybe less, before the water took them. England appeared through haze like a promise. The right engine coughed. Once. Twice. McGuire shut it down immediately, saving the last drops of fuel for the left. The Lightning could fly on one engine, barely. He called the tower, voice tight, declaring emergency. They cleared him straight in. 2 miles from the runway, the left engine quit. Silence. McGuire pushed the nose down, trading altitude for speed, stretching the glide as far as physics allowed. The runway rushed toward him. 1 mile? Half. The Lightning floated longer than it should have, stubborn as the men who flew it. The wheels kissed concrete just past the threshold. Rubber on runway had never sounded so good. The aircraft rolled to a stop halfway down the strip, empty tanks, empty guns, scarred and breathing heat. Ground crews swarmed it. McGuire stayed seated for a moment, hands shaking now that the fight was over. 6 enemy aircraft destroyed. Jim Morrison dead. Bill Anderson gone, maybe. That night, Bourbon burned going down. The intelligence officer delivered numbers in a flat voice. Ball-bearing factories destroyed. 60 bombers lost. 8 fighters. Nearly 700 men gone for targets that would be rebuilt in months. The next morning brought another briefing. Berlin. Maximum effort. Clear skies. Perfect for bombers. Perfect for fighters. Losses mounted. Faces in the briefing room thinned. New pilots arrived bright-eyed and disappeared just as fast. McGuire kept flying. Mission after mission. His lightning took punishment and kept bringing him back, wounded but loyal, like a tired horse that knew the way home. Anderson returned 2 weeks later, alive, grounded forever, hearing ruined. They shared a bottle and didn't talk about the future. Winter closed in. Weather killed almost as efficiently as the Germans. Fog, ice, cloud battles where enemies appeared out of nowhere. McGuire's hands developed a tremor that wouldn't stop on the ground. Doctors noticed. Command looked away. There weren't enough experienced pilots left. Benzedrine to fly. Phenobarbital to sleep. Bourbon for everything else. Mission 45 was supposed to be easy. It wasn't. 30 Focke-Wulfs against 6 Lightnings. McGuire made the call to engage anyway. He killed 2 in the first pass, the familiar 2-second solution at 300 yards. Then the sky closed in. A rocket took 1 Lightning apart instantly. Another went down in flames. McGuire's aircraft was hit again and again. Left engine burning. Hydraulics dead. Controls heavy, then barely there. He fought until the guns clicked empty. AFW 190 settled behind him, close enough to see the pilot's face in the mirror. Young, focused, professional. Cannon shells marched forward along the fuselage. The cockpit glass shattered inward. Pain bloomed hot, then cold. With the last strength he had, McGuire pulled the release and rolled away from the dying plane. The canopy tore free. Air slammed into him. He fell, barely clearing the booms. The parachute opened automatically. Blood spread across his chest. The Germans circled once, then flew away. McGuire hit the French countryside hard and lay staring at gray sky as life leaked out of him. For the first time in months, his hands were still. McGuire survived. French resistance fighters found him bleeding in a muddy field and hid him in a barn. An old doctor told him the truth. He would live, but he would never fly again. The war ended without him, and he went home carrying medals, scars, and a silence he never broke. He built a life, work, family, years, but never escaped the lightning. He never talked about the men he killed or the friends he lost. Only once, late in life, did he say anything at all. At 300 yards, he whispered, "You couldn't miss." And then he cried.